Well, 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 well. The Jets come back down to earth. Jets wind up flopping versus the Bengals 27-12 in a game that really was not as close as even that score indicates. Really sloppy game all the way around. You know, I good things. maybe you say, the corners maybe sort of ish played all right. I guess Zerline kicks 4 kicks or 3 kicks or whatever it is. So the Jets have, some points on the board. Kicked a 52 yarder today. So that was probably the best I can say for our pretty lackluster performance today across the board. I'll run through some stats real quick, then I'll give you guys some of my thoughts. I'll get into some of your comment questions as well. Joe Flacco finishes the day 28 of 52, 258 yards, and 2 interceptions. He did have at least 1 fumble on a strip sack as well. Just trying to rattle off what I see over here, but he got sacked. He got banged around. Flacco did not have a very good day. This was a really, really ugly performance, and a lot of these yards are in garbage time. I'll release my every throw or every pass from this game. I'm going to do every run as well, so you guys will see that if you feel like watching it. It's not super crazy, but you see some good things, a lot of not so good things. Can take a look at the blocking and whatnot. Running-wise, Michael Carter leads the way, 11 carries, 39 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. Breece Hall, I guess they both kind of tie, 8 carries, 39 yards as well, 4.9 yards per carry. Tyler Conklin ends up being the Jets' top receiving target today, and again, a lot of this was in garbage time. 8 receptions, 84 yards. Garrett Wilson goes 6 receptions, 60 yards. Breece Hall, 6 receptions, 53 yards. So Breece Hall has himself a pretty decent day, almost getting to that 100-yard mark. Going to be excited to see what we can get from him moving forward. On the defensive side of the ball, CJ Mosley ends the day, 7 tackles, 5 assists. Quincy Williams, 6 tackles, 1 assist. He did wind up leaving on the cart in the third quarter on a really nice third down stop, but it seems like he hurt his ankle. So not really good there. Quinnen Williams and Sheldon Rankins both get credited with a sack. Same with DJ Reed. Sauce winds up having a nice little pass breakup, kind of had a little bit of the Jamar Chase tasks for today. So that's the stats. Joe Burrow, on the other side, goes 23 of 36, 275 yards and 3 touchdowns, and they took their foot off the gas completely. The Jets were blown out of this game. There was nothing close. Now, I will say this, Joe Mixon, I thought was going to go off on the Jets, and the Jets, for the most part, kept him in check. And by most part, I mean, he had, 15 touches for a total of like 38 yards. So that's like not too bad. But the story for me was the Jets shooting themselves in the foot again, not being able to get any pressure whatsoever. The fact that Burrow dropped back 36 times and we got, 3 sacks, and a lot of that was like not even in like any sort of important part of the game, just really had me burnt up a little bit. Now, things that I could not stand. These are my notes from the game. John Franklin Myers basically shot the Jets in the foot in a really, really big way. Winds up having an unnecessary roughness call against him after Burrow throws away the ball. It wasn't even close. And it was just a push and like a land on top of kind of situation. So it wasn't like a violent hit, but like the ball's clearly out and he clearly extends his arms way after the ball is released. And you just can't do that. That's a third down play. Jets are getting off the field. You're about to get the ball back. 2 plays later, Sauce has a nice little, breakup 1 play later. 2 plays later, there's the long play to, I think it was Tyler Boyd. Whitehead, for whatever reason, decides not to try and wrap up, go for the big hit, and 56 yards later, it's a touchdown. This is stupid mental errors. These are coaching mistakes. John Franklin Myers, dumb today. Jordan Whitehead, dumb today. Wound up dropping an interception as well. Really, those 2 guys with the boneheaded mistakes, I understand things happen, but like they were bad today. Joyner, still not good, had a really stupid penalty, launching himself on a pass that went over Sauce Gardner's head. I mean, had coverage, but nice catch by the Bengals receiver, but winds up launching his body at the head, winds up getting pulled out of the games. I believe that was Higgins? I think it was Higgins. And then later on, winds up giving up a touchdown. Just looks like he's completely lost in terms of the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive line side, Trey Hendrickson absolutely dominated the left-hand side regardless of who was there. Fant was a turnstile all damn day. And then, he winds up going out with I think it was a knee injury or a lower leg injury. And then McDermott winds up coming in. He winds up getting smoked. Hendrickson, the Jets just had no answer for this guy. You have to give him a running back or an extra tight end on that side. They should have been trying to protect their quarterback, and they just got to tee off on us. So really, really interested. The Jets, this is the 9th consecutive game where 21 points have been scored. That leads the NFL right now. The one Flacco interception, like threw it right into triple coverage to Berrios after Garrett Wilson winds up getting hurt. And it's like, dude, you're forcing the ball. What are you doing? I don't know. This was frustrating. Just kind of like after all the excitement last week, I knew we didn't play great last week, but we showed some grit. Today looks like it totally went out the window, and I cannot wait to get Zach Wilson back. Forget the whole conversation of, if Joe Flacco is playing well, do you even go back to Zach Wilson? That can't even be a thought. This team looks so lost and so unenthusiastic. Quinnen Williams, after the John Franklin Myers kind of mistake, roughing the passer call, touchdown because of the Whitehead, no tackle, winds up blowing up on the Jets defensive line coach, arguing on the sidelines. Players wind up pushing him apart. And dude, it's just, this team feels like the same old Jets. Like this game was not close at all. Score-wise, the Jets kind of hung around. There was an opportunity, here and there where you could have really done something, but the offense couldn't get anything going. The defense just could not stop the Bengals. This was rough. Really, really irritated. And I can't wait to get Zach Wilson back next week. There's rumors that he could be ready to go if everything is on track. I think I saw that from Ian Rappaport, so fingers crossed there. Brandon Frey says, worst defense I've ever seen. I think last year's probably worse for me. As much as I hated today's performance, I do think that the secondary, at least corner-wise, is better. Safety play is just, I don't understand how you have Joyner out there. I think you just, at this point, you got to put one of Adams or Davis back there. There's more upside with those guys. But yeah, this defense looks lost. This whole team kind of looks lost. Very unenthusiastic. They came out flat after halftime, after having some really nice opportunities to tie up the game or keep it a little bit closer. Greg comes in, says, glad this is the last week with Flacco starting. Looking forward to having a quarterback that can move around, but our pass rush needs to step up. Yes, that was an embarrassing performance from the defensive line. This is an offensive line and a quarterback where you should have been able to tee off on Burrow. You should have been able to dominate this offensive line. This is a failure on the defensive side of the ball. Now, to their credit, when a team is up on you, you're probably thinking they're going to run a little bit more. Maybe you're not teeing off as much as you'd like in those sort of situations. But man, this is a bad look for the defensive line, for Robert Saleh, for Quinnen, for Lawson, for John Franklin Myers. This was like a revenge game for Lawson. And he got a few pressures. He almost got home a few times, but this was bad. This is a failure for the defensive line, in my opinion. Knob Craft says, positive vibes only, #clown show. Yeah, I think we got to stop with the positive vibes because these guys need a kick in the ass because this is not good. Jets are going to have to go into Pittsburgh, hopefully with Zach Wilson at the helm. Maybe we get a little bit of a spark there. We need it badly. Brandon Frey says, one positive, Zerline was great, man punted good. Yeah, special teams was the second week in a row, the winners of that of the day, I guess, overall. I mean, I guess Garrett Wilson last week, Garrett Wilson looked good. This week, Garrett Wilson looks pretty good. He did have another drop. You can kind of live with that, I guess, if he's showing out in other aspects. But man, the drops do kind of get irritating. Flacco seemed off his mark today. There was a few passes that I was just looking at and just, wish he had that one back. Didn't love it. Scott, you know what the last thing I wanted to say was? Same old Jets. How do I feel right now? Same old Jets. Yeah, dude, that's exactly how I feel right now. I don't feel optimistic. And when I look at the offensive line, I think that's what's the most irritating. Like I don't say I pounded the table, but I wanted to see Fant get an extension. But at this point, I don't know. I mean, I think you got to have him and Brown compete for the left tackle spot. I think you keep Mitchell at the right tackle spot. There's no reason to play two 30-plus-year-olds at the tackle position when you have a young guy who's performing relatively well. Now, I'd have to go back and watch like all his snaps and see how he really did, but it didn't stand out to me that he was the one getting blown up because Fant was such a turnstile on the left-hand side. Now, Brown and Fant, I think the two of them are going to have to compete against each other. Just like the offensive line, I think, is frustrating because I wanted to expect Tomlinson to really play well, and I think he did play better. Now, the Bengals had a little bit of a bang-up with their nose tackle. He wound up going out, which kind of helped our pass protection and running ability. But outside of that, the Jets kept shooting themselves in the foot, whether it be holding penalties or sacks or fumbles, interceptions. Like, it's just self-inflicted wounds continue to be the story for this team. And it's frustrating because you want to see that get cleaned up. And I feel like this has got to start to fall on coaching at some point. I don't know. Let me know how you guys are feeling. If you got a question, drop a Q before the word or before your comment, and then I'll try to pull it up. Brandon said, dude, who's out there for left tackle for us to grab? Wilson's going to get killed back there. Yeah, this is seriously bad stuff. You don't want to put your quarterback that just had a knee injury behind this offensive line. Now, I do think he will be able to manipulate the pocket a little bit, move around a little bit. That might help the offensive line, but he's also going to hold on to the ball a little bit more because he's not as decisive as Joe Flacco just yet. And that will, in turn, get him a few more hits as well. J.E. says our safeties are horrible. Whitehead and Joyner suck. Whitehead, man, he leaves a lot to be desired. He's definitely an upgrade at the safety position, but he's very frustrating. From like preseason to now, he just does not wrap up. It's incredibly frustrating to watch. And Joyner should not be on the field. I do not understand why he's remotely close to starting right now. Really didn't like to see that. V-Man drops in. V-Man says, Jets better win. Steelers are winless without TJ Watt. Also, we're still in third place. Got to clean up mistakes. It's crazy. What scares me is Miami. I didn't get to watch the Miami-Buffalo game, but Miami beating Buffalo does scare me because Buffalo is a juggernaut. Like, I think they are the best team in the league, and to see Miami end up beating them is a little concerning. Now, they did have an opportunity late in the game, Buffalo did, to try and win that game. The Dolphins had the butt punt. If you guys didn't see that, look up butt punt. The protector, I guess, of the punter right in front of him, that guy that stands kind of behind the offensive line, kind of got in the way. Ball ricocheted off his butt backwards for a safety, putting the Bills down by 2, getting the ball back with like less than 2 minutes left to drive down the field to try and score a touchdown. But the Dolphins hold strong. And they wind up winning that game. But yeah, the Buffalo's entire secondary, both safeties, one safety's Hyde's out for the year. Poyer was out for the game. Tre'Davious White's out for 4 games. And who's the other corner? Their entire secondary was out. Plus like a linebacker and 2 D tackles. So I don't know if that's a true litmus test, but like offensively, I would have thought Allen could hang more than 19 points on Miami's defense. That's kind of where I'm going with this one. But yeah, I guess that's a glass half full, V-Man. Scott says, Flacco was awful. Play calling was suspect. I'm going to really miss Quincy. Glad to see Zach Wilson back next week. Glad to see Garrett Wilson back after the half. Yeah, it's kind of nice that we got out of this game relatively unscathed. Now, I don't know what Quincy Williams' injury ultimately is. I haven't seen that come through yet, but it seems like it wasn't too good. He had that towel over his face. They made his leg immobile. I think they said it was an ankle, is what they were talking about. And that to me, linebacker wise, like Quincy was like the high upside guy that you hope to see a little bit more development from throughout this year, because there's a good shot Quan Alexander may not make it through the entire season. He's not known for his health, and CJ probably is not here next year. Linebacker wise, we're going to need a serious revamping. So that is not too good. But yeah, definitely glad to see Garrett Wilson back. He got hit. He had that hit last week on the sideline where he landed kind of on his back and side, and then he got cracked today on like the ribs that felt like it was on a similar side. On the same side? I think it was the same side. And he kind of stayed down for a little bit, came back in. Kid's tough as nails. Really like what we're getting out of Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall for the most part. Breece did have a drop that not a great pass by Flacco, was a third down play. Really could have used that first down. That was maybe a little bit disappointing, but overall, the young guys on this team are looking good. Like if it's going to be Fant, Flacco, Joyner that are the problem people on this roster, I don't want to say I'm okay with it because I don't want to see that, but I'm almost happier that that's what's happening as opposed to the young guys. What's concerning for me is our defensive line. These are young studs. This is John Franklin Myers. This is Quinnen Williams. This is Carl Lawson. Like, these guys should be wrecking havoc, and it's just not happening. Really, really frustrating to see. Scott drops in again. We are a kneel away from 0-3. Yeah, seriously, we could be 0-3 right now. If Chubb doesn't score that touchdown and he falls down on the 2 or 1 yard line, the Browns run the clock out, and we're 0-3. We are very lucky we even got to this point. Ugly. Brandon says, if I hear trust the process one more time, I'm going to flip out. Same thing every week. It's getting frustrating. 11 years. Yeah, I don't want to hear trust the process. I want wins. We should be in these games. The Steelers and Cowboys both essentially had backup quarterbacks. Mitch Trubisky, yes, he's the Steelers starter, but that's, he's been a journeyman for the last few years. And then Cooper Rush for the Cowboys beat the Bengals. Those two guys beat the Bengals, but the Jets can't. Like, I would take Flacco over Mitch or Rush right now in like a coin flip kind of like, hey, who's starting for a game in a pinch? So for Flacco and the Jets to come out this flat at home, that's embarrassing. You got to be able to play better at home. Kevin, talking to someone in the chat, says exactly right about Moore. They are throwing him jump ball passes, and he's 5'10". He had some really nice toe tap grabs the last 2 weeks. He had the really nice one later in the game today. Not, the game was pretty much over at this point, but it was a nice catch. Like, Elijah Moore should be getting targeted more along the sidelines. Him and Garrett Wilson are going to be fun to watch going forward, and I just can't wait to get Zach back to really take advantage of the two of them. With the young quarterback as well. Jabrams says, how many times are we going to run an end around with Berrios? So predictable. Why not have Elijah Moore run that instead of putting him in 50-50 jump balls? I feel like the deep balls were more like, hey, I got to get the ball out with Flacco, as opposed to really being a legit shot for Elijah Moore to come. Like, a jump ball for me is one that you come back to. 50-50 ball. And I don't know if any of those passes necessarily justified that. But they were pretty bad passes from Flacco. He did have the one to Moore that I thought could have been a touchdown, and the defender got his hand in there a little bit. So it was a little sucked to kind of see that drop go through. I shouldn't call it a drop. It was pass defense, but either way. But yeah, Berrios end around. The first time, they run it one time, I think, today. And I'm watching, I'm like, this is going to go to Berrios right now. He's on the field, like, this is the end around play. And sure enough, he goes in motion, gets the handoff. It's like, really? Like, there's 3 dudes there. Like, in that sort of situation, I wish Berrios would just pull up and throw the ball out of bounds, because you're considered, you could still throw. You're still behind the line of scrimmage. You got the ball behind the quarterback. I don't know. It sucks seeing that sort of stuff. Drives me a little bonkers. Brandon, what is Sal's excuse this week? The paint on the end zone wasn't the same color green as it normally is. I'm guessing. Look, we just got beat like a drum. There shouldn't be any excuses today. Today was we beat ourselves and the Bengals did what they wanted against us. This second half was uninspiring. The Bengals could take their foot off the gas entirely and just coast to a victory. Imagine if the Jets and this game, if the Jets kept this closer, the Bengals would have kept going and going and pressing, and they didn't really do that. Now they were going to go for the fourth down play, or they did go for the fourth down play late to kind of like put the stamp on it, but the Jets just could not stop anything. And Robert Saleh, you got to get this team ready to play. Ulbrich, you got to get this defense ready to play. LaFleur will give you a little bit of a pass because Fant is really awful and Flacco can't move, but this team did not look very good. Did not look good. Craig says, how does this team perform with Coach Belichick? I don't know. I'm not sure how Belichick always has his team competing. But at this point, you got to look at the coaching staff. The coaching staff really has not wowed me so far. But a lot of that is like, backup quarterback, offensive line gelling. I'm kind of making some excuses there as far as like how long this might take to start clicking. Last week we saw a good example of the team fighting to the very last second and scoring. And they really, I don't want to say they had their way with the Browns in terms of like, moving the ball, but it felt like we were able to move the ball a little bit aside from like, a weird challenge on third down where we didn't continue holding onto the ball. And then, a strip sack from a rookie tackle getting beat by a former number 1 overall pick. Like there were things I could kind of pick out and say like, okay, you know what, this is kind of weird. There's kind of some odd circumstances here, but like today we just got flat out beat. And Sal's got to come out and he's got to be able to get this team to play hard because I don't want to sit here for another 14 games watching this kind of effort because that was piss poor. People pay way too much money to watch this game, and these players get paid way too much money to perform the way they did. I know they're frustrated. Like you saw Quinnen kind of get a little hot, and he has, you saw them double team him a lot. You saw them try to take him out of the equation. But Lawson, John Franklin Myers, the safety plays of both Joyner and Whitehead, I want to see more out of these guys. This is not what we paid for. There was a lot of money shelled out, and it's looking ugly. Malburn says, the Lions are playing competitive now. No excuses. 100%. That team was horrible. And that coach has that team playing hard and is in games. Yoshi says, Mac Jones got injured in what looked like a bad injury. I did not see that. I have no idea what the injury was. If you guys see it, drop it in the chat because I do want to know a little bit more about that. Greg comes in and says, penalties, turnovers, sacks, not a whole lot of positives to take out of today. Hopefully next week the Steelers' depleted defense might be just what this offense needs in a big way. So frustrating. I wasn't even like afraid of the Bengals defense. Like obviously I knew Hendrickson was good and you have the safeties in Von Bell and Jesse Bates, but across the board, the Jets should have been able to move the ball on this team. And we should have been able to get to Burrow. The dude was sacked like 13 times through 2 games. And the Jets' defensive line could not get it done. This is Salah's specialty. This should be, a key piece to this team. And it was very disappointing to see how they came out. Mary Way, thank you so much for the super chat. I don't see any comment. Oh, there we go. They should have put in Strevler. Ulbrich needs to go. I don't want to see Strevler, but I would have liked to have seen Mike White at some point. But I guess you run the risk of like, oh, Mike White had a spark against the Bengals, and now Zach was supposed to come back next week, and now maybe there's this quarterback controversy. I would have, I don't know. They like Flacco. They're rolling it with Flacco until Zach comes back. Strevler, as much as everyone likes the backup quarterback, he is third string for a reason. Ulbrich needs to go. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping it's going to start to turn around once we get some points on the board. It's hard to have your defense always in a position of losing. Like the Jets haven't led a game in its entirety in a very, very long time. We are basically always losing. So maybe we get some offensive firepower and starts to change a little bit. J-Boy comes in and says, today showed this team has a long way to go. I can't remember the last time the Jets won 2 games in a row. The last time the Jets won 2 games in a row was when we didn't want to win at all. And that was in 2020. We beat the Rams and we beat the Browns to wind up knocking ourselves out of the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes and getting into the Zach Wilson sweepstakes. I don't know. This is frustrating. And then the time before that would have been 2018, 19. First year of Gase when they wound up winning a few lame duck games at the end. Buffalo resting starters, Pittsburgh being on like their 3rd string quarterback. Like we haven't legitimately won 2 games in a row that we wanted to win, or at least like felt, I don't want to say felt deserving of, but felt like it was a worthy win in what feels like a very, very long time. Knobcraft. Is that Steve Harvey on Dora the Explorer's face? That's absurd. He says, I thought Douglas put in work in free agency. Sure doesn't look like it. Is that him or the coaching? This team is more talented. Uzama Conklin, both more talented than the tight ends we've had in the past. I don't know what has happened to Laken Tomlinson because he is not performing as advertised. And then Whitehead is an improvement over our safeties. But from last year, that was like such a bad, safety tandem that to like give them any sort of clout is for this year is like a little frustrating. He's just got to learn to tackle. Like this is basic stuff. You got to learn how to tackle and stop the guy. He's getting wrapped up. I understand like, second guy is supposed to go for the ball, but like, dude, you are the only safety back there. If you don't wrap up, it is a touchdown. As soon as he went for it and I didn't see the arms come out, I'm like, that's a touchdown. It doesn't matter. It's a touchdown. So Douglas's free agent acquisitions, I think the talent's there. I don't blame him so much. Joyner starting at safety, I think I'm more frustrated with. And I don't know if that's so much a Douglas move as much as that is a coaching staff move. Because this dude hasn't played safety at a high level in 4 years. It's bad. Bad. I think I would put more blame on the coaching staff than I would on the talent overall. Because this team is a talented roster. It just feels like we can't get what we need out of them. Flacco starting in place of Zach kind of hampers some of the thought process in that, because if you're not, playing with all your weapons, and I shouldn't say weapons, but if you're not playing with your main guy, there's 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and Joe Flacco is not supposed to be one of them. So I don't know. FL86 says lack of adjustments by coaches is an issue. Yeah, it feels like coming out after halftime, we've really just been uninspiring. I see a few comments saying bring in Sean Payton. If Sean Payton wants to come here after this year, look, I'm not trying to get rid of Saleh by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're talking Hall of Fame coach wanting to come in here, I don't see how you look at this team and decide you're not going to do that. Now that said, look, I do think Saleh is going to be the right guy. I do think this defense is going to start to grow, and I think we'll start seeing it turn around. I saw today it was the 18th ranked defense compared to last year that was 32nd. So like we're clearly stepping forward a little bit. Some of that has to do with the rainy game against Baltimore where Lamar Jackson couldn't run. They were without like 3 running backs. And then last week we faced Jacoby Brissett instead of a Deshaun Watson or a starting caliber quarterback. So there's things we can definitely knock for sure. And I do think this defense is better. Like I have some faith with this cornerback tandem. I like DJ Reed. I like Sauce Gardner. I like Michael Carter. The safeties and the linebackers, the 2 areas on the defense that we thought needed help, still need help. They're going to need help. We're going to have to address that next year, because I don't know how you do it in season. It doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe you trade Mims for someone like a starter of some capacity. I don't know. Kevin says it's on coaching. Yeah, a lot of you guys are saying that. James says bad coaching. FM says excuses, Ryan. That's what it feels like we're getting from the Jets. And I'm not trying to make any. This is a bad team. We got thumped by a team that was in the Super Bowl last year. that I thought we really had a shot to come out and beat this week. I really did. Based on the way they played the last 2 weeks, the Jets, and the last 2 weeks for the Bengals, I thought the Jets could have come out here and at least made this competitive. And this just was not competitive at all. I do not want to watch this style of effort the rest of the year. Mr. Mike says, we won a red flag call. No nightmares this week. Yeah, we got that. We got 2, right? Or I guess we got 1 challenge. And then they lost, 2 challenges? I think it was 2 challenges. So that was kind of nice. Nice to see. But overall, very, very disappointing. Okay. So let's round this out. Jets lose 27-12 to the Cincinnati Bengals in a very uninspiring game. And a game where Joe Burrow has 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and that felt like that was like by halftime. It did not feel good for the New York Jets this entire day. Joe Flacco goes 28 of 52 for 285 yards and 2 interceptions. That is a lot of garbage time yardage. Our top receiver, Conklin, 8 receptions, 85 yards, or 84 yards, sorry. Just an ugly, ugly performance. George Fant, beat like a drum. McDermott, equally beat like a drum on the left-hand side. JFM, shooting us in the foot early on with Jordan Whitehead. Those guys have to play better. Those are conscious decisions they're making to not wrap up, to hit a quarterback late on a 3rd down that was an incomplete pass you would have gotten off the field. That's what drives me bonkers. Absolutely drives me nuts. Stifler's mom comes in and says, this is on coaching. You can just tell they don't want to play for this guy. Look at how the Giants play compared to us. Coach suggestions. I don't like teams that constantly swapping coaches. So I will be in Salah's corner at least through this year, but I would like to see him here for 4 years. I think you need to have some stability and you need to be able to build this the right way. And just yanking the ripcord when things start getting tough is not the right way to do it. Players and coaches don't want to risk their careers on teams that constantly recycle head coaches and players and GMs and things of that nature. Like sometimes you just got to let them figure it out. And I know that's frustrating to hear as a fan, but I think that is the right move to make. Gator says 2-2 will feel real good considering we thought this team would be after what we thought this team would be after Wilson went down. Got to beat the Steelers. We have too much talent to suck. Absolutely, Gator. This is a game. This is a must-win game for the Jets against the Steelers coming up this week. You got to get this win. If you can somehow peel that off and you're at 500, 4 games into the season, this is a team a lot of people said, you know what? The Jets could be 0-9 going into the bye. So to be at 2-2, especially the way the Jets played the Ravens, like the Ravens, we played well enough against the Ravens to be able to win that game. This was the game I felt like was not close compared to the other 3. This one felt like we didn't stand a chance. So I'm hoping a lot of this is going to be on the coaching staff and some, brain fart. You got the little bit of Bengals Super Bowl caliber team coming in. Maybe there's I don't know. I can't make excuses. This just sucked. This was a really frustrating game to watch. Guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Is this, are the Jets going to be able to turn this around? What do you think of Robert Saleh? How do you feel about Zach Wilson coming back? Do you think he's going to be starting this week against the Steelers? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, go Jets.